What's going on, Fortnite fam? Roster mania has struck again, this time affecting Acorn and Bolts most of all. There's new duos in town and some sticking together, refusing to take the bait. We got NA finals results from the divisional finals. The King is back on top, throwing a little bit of NA West, and we got a lot to talk about in today's video. So let's jump out of that battle bus and get right into the mix. Roster mania just continues to happen. And I've always said it, teams are never set until you queue up for FNCS, and even then from week to week is anybody's game. But Acorn and Bolts have officially split up, and it's probably Acorn's decision because Bolts was the one saying looking for a duo, and Acorn made his decision quickly. He actually chose Kanata, which had a couple people striking their heads because of how much they had beef. Kanata refusing to talk to Acorn at one point for a very, very long time, but Acorn and Kanata finally willing to give it a shot. And I think honestly Kanata really having to dig deep. He was at one point contemplating quitting, saying there's no one to play with. Well, now he gets one of the greatest IGLs. Acorn gets one of the greatest fraggers in the history of the game, qualifying for every FNCS finals. So I'm interested to see how they perform as a team. Bolts, on the other hand, got a great IG. Chose Kanata, which had a couple people striking their heads because of how much they had beef. Kanata refusing to talk to Acorn at one point for a very, very long time, but Acorn and Kanata finally willing to give it a shot. And I think honestly Kanata really having to dig deep. He was at one point contemplating quitting, saying there's no one to play with. Well, now he gets one of the greatest IGLs. Acorn gets one of the greatest fraggers in the history of the game, qualifying for every FNCS finals. So I'm interested to see how they perform as a team. Bolts, on the other hand, got a great IGL as well. Not one as decorated as Acorn by any means, but he ends up with Rise. And Rise is somebody I said, man, when he is dedicated, he could be one of the best IGLs in the game. You saw what he was able to do with so many different players, including Iamzo, kind of teaching him. And now Iamzo, look at where he's at in terms of IGLing. I talk about teams sticking together though, Veno and Curve. It was a little bit, people were thinking about Veno and Bolts probably going together, maybe Veno and Kanata as well, but Veno said, I'm sticking with Curve. As of now, the only person that can get me to jump ship is Peterbot himself, and so far for Veno and Curve, it has been working out. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I know Papa and Mama Curve out there are happy. They support their son, and I always love the parents who support their kids out there. So that's going to be a great team if it continues to show as much potential as it actually is. You know what Veno can actually do. We've seen a lot of Curve's potential, and now I think it's actually being unlocked. So that's great to see. Ree and Javi actually playing together. Javi was on a little bit of the hot streak from the solo series into a couple of the weekly finals. Ree being tossed around, getting kind of snaked by Booga most recently. He ends up with Javi. I'm interested to see how they perform. Booga and Craze this time actually coming back together. We kind of know how that one went in the past in trios. Hopefully this one works out in duos for Booga being on zero ping this time around. Hopefully it does change things. I want to see Booga return to his former glory potentially and get that motivation and grind to adapt. On the NA West, a couple of team changes. There is going to be Arc and Victor V. They split up. Well, they're back together already. There was some drama there with Victor V and Pop saying something around the lines where Arc was kind of messaging on the past, maybe trying to go ahead and snake Victor V if he had any opportunity there, but Victor V and him are back together, and we'll talk about if that worked out for them in the weekly finals. But let me know what you think about some of the most recent team changes to shake up NA overall, and who might some of your front runners be. On to NA finals on Central War again. We continue to be blessed and treated with some of the best Fortnite in 2026. The game in competitive continues to hold strong, and yes, I said the King is back. King Peterbot is back on top along with Pollo. This one may have been a little confusing depending on how you read the leaderboard. He gets 4 out of 6 game wins, but only wins by 23 points. It's like, what? How does that come about? It goes to show how the game has changed and how close the actual tournament was. Peterbot and Pollo fully locking in this tournament, and you can tell by them not keying Clicks and Higgs, not a single game so far, and they're actually changing up. You expect them to go for full aggressive W key style games, high eliminations, and with the meta and the wingsuits, well, they can't do that. They went ahead and took Acorn and Bolts at the time's drop spot onto that top mountain, but now they have to play slower. On the top of that mountain, you have to go for surge tags and jetpack in later, which means they cannot get aggressive as they normally would in the past. And honestly, at least it goes to show that Peterbot and Pollo are working on things. They're back to their former glory, and they have what it takes to dominate these tournaments. And I kind of use that word loosely because, again, 23 points, but it's Curve and Venno who are actually in the conversation until the very last game. They got 6th place, 4 eliminations. I do believe points-wise, if they were able to get a second or a third, they could have potentially still won it, depending on how many eliminations were in there. But Curve and Venno continue to impress. We know the accolades that Venno has. Curve is that young gun, that player that just needs that moment to shine and somebody to help him unlock his potential. I think Venno is that guy. I think they do have the potential to win Major 1 here on NA Central, but I might be speaking too soon. I'll lock in predictions for that when FNCS actually rolls around. But Agers in Ritual, 3rd place in this tournament, and that's kind of a heartbreaker because they were in first going into the very last game, but something happened. Honestly, if you really watch a lot of their games and how they play out, they stay at Standy Strip, they sit on their mending machine, and they kind of use those med kits and the gold because a lot of the time they are uncontested, which allows them to get a little bit of surge early on and use that to propel themselves into the game later with the jetpack and those med kits. But this time around, they didn't. They kind of pushed out of their drop spot and played completely different. They went down in 22nd place with only 2 eliminations overall, which kind of costed them that #1 spot, but still top 3. It goes to show that Agers and Ritual also a threat in this competition. Clicks and Higgs kind of getting to play out most of their games without getting keyed by Peterbot and Pollo. But that didn't really mean too much. They got 4th place, but it came through solo clutches. You can't really rely on solo clutches to win you a tournament. Coming into this season before divisional cups, we were looking at Clicks and Higgs to be the hottest team, the #1, and if you think weekly power rankings, but so far I feel like we haven't really seen them live up to that hype. Maybe a season change will be the thing. Click saying he's going to the best drop spot no matter who's there. If Peterbot's there, they're going to be fighting all season long, even if it means neither one of them or whoever's at that drop spot has a good tournament. But it's still 4th place, not bad. Dolzair and Ishu, quite a impressive performance overall. Unfortunately, a 31st with 6 eliminations and a 12th place to end the day kind of costed them a top 3 position on that leaderboard. But it goes to show Dolzair, Ishu also having the blueprint, potential to perform well in these tournaments, especially when we have so many superstar teams performing as well as they are. Puts them in the conversation. Josh and Iamzo, 298 points. They got back, I wouldn't say back-to-back, but they got 2 different 3rd places in this tournament, but they had a 33rd, they had a 26th. Those are 0 placement games. One of them, they had 0 elims, so it was 0 points overall. The other one, they were able to get eliminations, but it's not enough to keep you going in a tournament, especially a tournament with one team getting 4 out of 6 wins, another team in the top 3, or 2 of the teams in the top 3 getting a single elimination win as well. As Muzz and Sphinx, they weren't able to replicate that win, but top 7 on the leaderboard. It still goes to show they're a threat to these competitions. Cold and Rapid, this is one that kind of has you scratching your head with how dominant Rapid has actually been in some of these tournaments so far. This is his first moment where he's facing some adversity, especially now with a new duo in Cold. Rapid is confident they can continue to work on things here. It goes to show that he has confidence in their team. So to me, when you have someone playing like Cold on your side, you got to have all the confidence in the world that he can get things done and really show up in those big moments, especially being able to bounce back from an 8th place here. Shadow and Virgo, and then Threats and Veer rounding out our top 10 on the NA Central leaderboards. Let Let me know what you guys think of Central. Let me know if anybody had any surprise performances or maybe some performances that we need to start to question. On over to NA West, where you saw Arc and Victor V split up, then get back together, and you can kind of see why. First place, 335 points. This is huge to prove that maybe they are on the right track to taking over this region. We saw what Arc was able to do in trios last year. Even Victor V qualifying for the Global Championship. We know what they can do as individuals, as solo players, and really take over games as fraggers. But coming together, I think the biggest thing that they lack is that IGL. But as soon as they get it together, and if they figure it out, one of them kind of taking the reins and taking that role, I do think they continue to be a threat. And I say continue because they are one now. Manny and Z-Link, second place. This is a team that has some inconsistencies where one day they're looking like they can kind of take over the region. The next day, they kind of go down in some weird situations, down on Surge. They are an aggressive team, and this Surge sometimes doesn't always favor aggression. So I'm interested to see how they continue to perform, because I do think they have that potential to win some of these tournaments. Epic Well and Pump, speak of winning tournaments, they can be one of those teams as well. They, along with Baka and Pars, third and fourth place, you kind of expect greatness out of these guys. And as of recent, you haven't necessarily saw that. But as we get closer to FNCS, as the pressure is on, you know, there's a thing known as primetime players. And I think both of these teams are full of primetime players. So third and fourth place, finally getting it back together on the right track here. Rapid and Pollo from Central, 4 out of 6 games played. They ended the day with first and second place, where they got the majority of those points. NA West, we need to figure out consistency here as you compare some of the placings, honestly, at the top 5 to the placings on Central. There's just a lot more consistency on that region, and I think if we continue to kind of look at ourselves, maybe VOD review, get some coaches, I think we as a region can continue to be that silent threat, that under the radar threat. I always have the confidence in the region. We just need to continue to show it. Evolved and Peepotron in 6. If you continue to look down, Phoenix and Retro, one of the teams I was kind of claiming as maybe the top dogs on the region. They're going to get 9th place. They already got their spot secured in Esports World Cup. FNCS is right around the corner. You can't be slipping up now. But this is the leaderboard for NA West. Let me know what you guys think. As we jump on the battle bus, prepare for another week of competitive Fortnite action. I need to know who you guys have in the comments below at your top 5 teams coming into this next week. Maybe who you guys think could potentially win an FNCS championship. They don't have to be in any order at all. I just want to know what you guys are thinking. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.